Okay. Welcome to the Sonoma County Library Commission meeting. Thank you all for coming. We will take the roll. Commissioner Cahill?
Here.
Commissioner Elkins is traveling, so he is not here this evening. Commissioner Embarth?
Here.
Commissioner Goldberg?
Here.
Commissioner Green?
Here.
Commissioner Havenridge?
Here.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Here.
All right, thank you. And just, we're probably going to bring down the conversation about Roseland to farther in the beginning of the meeting. However, we want to make sure that our council is here as we talk about this. So, is he here? Oh, fabulous.
I'm here.
Sorry, you just popped on, Jeff, didn't you? Then we will bring that down to, that's loud. We're gonna bring that down to right after the presentation, so we'll make it 6.
And Chair Doyle, we have Commissioner Green and Goldberg attending.
That was next.
And we're-
Oh, that's right, I should have done that before, I'm sorry, I should have done this before calling the roll. Senator Green and Senator Goldberg are joining us for Just Cause. Commissioner Green and Commissioner Goldberg, please keep your audio and video on throughout the entire meeting. Commissioner Green, is anyone over 18 in the room with you?
No.
Commissioner Goldberg, is anybody over 18 in the room with you?
No.
Excellent. Thank you. Then we will continue. Let's see, move the item up. Any other announcements? I don't think so. All right, then public appearances. Do we have public comment? Yeah, Commissioner McKenzie.
An announcement.
Commissioner McKenzie.
Thank you. I didn't want the evening to go by without acknowledging an icon in the Roanoke Park Katati Library, Regional Library. Joanne Schmetz has left us, has unfortunately passed away. She was an absolute icon. She was one of the original founders of the Friends of the Library here. And when the library 20-some years ago, the city a few years ago, 20-some years ago, talked about building a new building, they went to Joanne and said, if we build a new building and we have a bookstore in it, will the Friends run it? And Joanne said, yes, we will. And that's why we have a bookstore. It's completely, almost completely on her that we have not only a bookstore in our library, but that we have a bookstore in our city. And so she was a remarkable woman. She had been a physical therapist. She was a teacher, and she was absolutely devoted to the Friends of the Library and our library. She devoted days and days of each week here. She and another one of the friends went around and visited other bookstores and figured out how to run them and how to, the marking system. So you know what your fresh inventory is and how to handle everything, and all of those policies and procedures she came up with are still in place. And that's why we have this wonderful bookstore here that, many of us have enjoyed over the years. A few years ago, we dedicated the teen space to her over here, which is in the kind of the right-hand side of the library back there. It's just a little tiny plaque. It was all that we could get approved by administration. But at that time, again, the library was very underfunded. We hadn't passed Measure M, and Measure Y hadn't come up. And so the Friends of the Library paid for the teen space, for the whole remodeling of the teen space, thousands and thousands of dollars, as they had paid for many, many other things. And the Friends were so fundamental to this library during the really dark times before we had the tax measures supplementing our budget, that it can't be understated. But so many people are new and haven't been around and haven't known. And I just didn't want Joanne's personal contribution, all the history that she was involved in, to go unremarked upon. She was just so fundamental, and those years of the Friends were so fundamental to the success of this library. So bless you, Joanne. We remember you. We think of you always. And anyway, just wanted to honor her memory and all she did.
Thanks, Commissioner McKenzie. In fact, her obituary was in this morning's Press Democrat, and I was going to suggest that we adjourn the meeting in her honor tonight. So. Any other announcements? Moving on to public appearances. Just before people start making comments, just know that we will listen to what you say, but we can't really discuss anything that you say at the microphone unless it's an agenda item. So please continue. Thank you.
Hello,
And you have 3 minutes.
for your friend, as you go with God. My name is Dwayne DeWitt. I'm from Roseland. I brought an important map to show you today. I'll pass it out here. Get down to you. The map is from the United States Environmental Protection Agency, issued today, showing environmental disadvantaged community and where environmental justice and climate justice programs should be necessary. So the thing about all this is, for a number of years, I've come and spoke with you about Roseland, where I'm from. And I didn't plan this appearance today with anybody else. I brought a copy of the Portrait of Sonoma County 2021 update. At that copy, it points out the Sonoma County Human Development Index by census tract has Roseland as the lowest, 95, worst in the county, and 5 above it is Bellevue. On that map that you have in front of you now, you can see Roseland outlined. You can see it's a disadvantaged community. Hearn Avenue is the southern black line. You'll notice there's a blue section that is now advantaged. That is where new housing has gone in. Those people are doing pretty well. They're not from Roseland. They've been buying in and gentrifying our area. So I've come here before to talk with you about how I was a member of the committee that chose a developer for what was called the Roseland Village Shopping Center. The committee worked together with county employees because we were promised a few amenities in the discussions. The amenities included a 1-acre green space park, included a community center, and a library ranch. That's one of the reasons why we in the community supported that effort. Down the road, other people have come forward and changed the situation and said, oh, we can't do that. Oh, there's different things planned. Well, here's how this works. If you promise something to a community and they base their ideas on that, that's what they're going to want. I know that Friends of the Library come forward and they've got a plan with the city of Santa Rosa. They want to put a Bellevue branch in. That's all fine and dandy. I'm not fighting that at all. I'm fighting to make sure we get our Roseland branch up on Sebastopol Road. We were promised at the Roseland Village Shopping Center. You might not say, well, we don't have anything to do with that. Well, as a matter of fact, you do. The whole thing was basically premised on the idea that there would be a collaborative effort and that library branch would be in the buildings that MedPen is putting in. Now that may have changed, MedPen still says they're going for a library to be there. We're not giving up in any way, shape, or form because I'm from Roseland. Thank you kindly.
Thanks, Mr. DeWitt.
Hi, Commissioners. Hi, Madam Chairwoman. I'm Kalia Musser. I've been writing you this week. Grateful to be here. Thank you for all your service to the community. Hi, Ms. Bethel. So I wanted to just start by saying I strongly support Measure Y. I'm bringing my voice to that. I am a fangirl of the Sonoma County Library and Sebastopol Library. And I just want to say, looking at our agenda, I know that things in the public sphere move slowly and prudently, but I feel really sad that the upset in Sebastopol Library in our community is not even on the agenda tonight. I feel really sad about that. It feels like an elephant in the room because there are hundreds of people deeply upset and hurt and angry about what's happening with the loss of our beloved Sebastopol branch manager. And I've been going to that library, by the way, for 50 years, right? I'm 60 now. I was 10 when I began to go there. And I think that the easiest way to just reiterate in this space is that, you know, the hundreds of us that know Matt in that role as manager, whether they're patrons or staff, the decision that's happened and the way it's happened is completely incongruent with our experience of him. We have deep trust and respect and also love for him because of the way he moves around in his role. So I would really hope that that would end up being reconsidered. I understand that I can't request a review using the bylaws. Thank you for teaching that to me because of the MOU with the union, that it's all happening in that setting. But I wonder if there's another way that's super helpful. Thank you. To review the decision made, I wonder if there's another way to do that. I'd like to ask this body. Excuse me. Allergies. I'm also really wanting to know where did the $105,000 for the report that was used as the basis of firing him, which funding bucket did that come from? I think that should be public information, and I'd like to see a more broken down itemization of what that report said, because I know that just small portions of it were shared in the press, as you guys know, because you released it. And then the thing that I will finally say, just moving towards solutions together, because there is so much pain and upset. You've now had a vote of no confidence in this body. And respectfully, I'm sorry, with our director, from the Friends of Sebastopol Library and also the lab, in both bodies. That's really significant. That really lets you know the voice of your community. And so I would like to say how important it is that you please do better public facing information with us. There's been almost none. Like, we're all having to sleuth it out. It feels like he's been disappeared. And I understand the personnel issue, but there are other ways to bring your voices to your community, because you actually are here to be in service to us. And if you could set up some kind of a proper dialogue with your community in Sebastopol that is following your own policies, that would be great. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Walt Fraser. I'm a volunteer with the Sebastopol Library. About a year and a half ago, Ms. Doyle and a group of Sonoma County Library administrators began a personal vendetta against a very popular branch manager of the Sebastopol Library. More recently, they've spent over $105,000 of taxpayer money on a pointless investigation to excuse fire. Over the past 12 years, Matthew Rose has been widely viewed as the creative and positive leader of a key community asset, supported by volunteers, city leaders, library staff, and patrons. Last month, the directors of the Sebastopol Library, directors of the Friends of the Sebastopol Library, unanimously passed a resolution in support of Mr. Rose, and I'll read that in part. Whereas the Friends of the Sebastopol Library value the library and its role in our community, we fear that the recent actions by the Sonoma County Library Administration are placing that relationship in jeopardy. Actions against Matthew Rose by the Sonoma County Library's administration, as well as other recent incidents, appear to be without thought to the community's interests or needs. And whereas Matthew has been subjected by the Sonoma County Library Administration to administrative actions, including placing him on administrative leave with intent to dismiss, after investigating without seeking any input from the Friends of the Sebastopol Library, the Sebastopol Regional Library, or any volunteers who work closely with Matthew Rose as to whether the community is pleased or displeased with Matthew Rose's job performance or tenure. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Friends of the Sebastopol Library expresses no confidence in the Sebastopol County Library Administration for its treatment of Matthew Rose and its demonstrated disrespect for him and for the Sebastopol Regional Library staff and its community. And further resolve that the Board of Directors of the Friends of the Sebastopol Library strongly rebukes the Sebastopol Library Administration, the Sonoma County Library Administration, for their tactics and treatment of Matthew Rose. And further, be it resolved that the Friends of the Sebastopol Library Board strongly support the retention of Matthew Rose as branch manager of the Sebastopol Regional Library. Be it further resolved that the Friends of the Sebastopol Regional Library recommend initiation of a community mediation with an eye towards seeking public input and avoiding further deterioration of the valuable relationship between the Friends of the Sebastopol Library and the Sonoma County Library Administration. And be it further resolved that the Board of the Friends of the Sebastopol Library requests that the Sonoma County Library Administration withdraw the disciplinary actions against Matthew Rose and reinstate him immediately.
Thank you.
Like we will be 2 weeks later, this.
How long is it?
The Sebastopol Library Advisory Board unanimously passed a statement of lack of confidence in the Sonoma County Library Administration. This was also unanimous.
Thank you.
Owing to your treatment of our highly respected branch manager, Matthew Rose, who disregards the Sebastopol community and presenting untruths to the lab, the removal of a years-long standing lab report as an item on the Library Commission agenda.
Excuse me, we're going to have to ask you to finish up, sir.
We, the undersigned members of the Sebastopol Library Advisory Board, release complete lack of confidence in the administration of the Sonoma County Library. That was unanimously passed also. So we think you've got a fire here, we need to pay attention. I'd like to, for any of you commissioners who care at all about this issue, read the story in the SebastopolTimes.com. It's excellent coverage.
Thank you, Mr. Fraser. Anyone else?
Good evening, I'm Pat Cuda. I'm the Vice President of the Sonoma County Library Foundation, Chair of the Fund Development Committee. I'm also a founding member of the South Say Legacy Society and recently joined the Executive Committee of the Measure Y campaign. So here I am. But
W.
yes, that one too. As you know, the Library Foundation has significantly expanded and grown in its capacity to support the greater vision for a 21st century library program. We are currently mid-campaign to raise $3.6 million to outfit the new permanent branch in Southwest Santa Rosa. We are also a major sponsor and supporter of the campaign and donate $100,000 to that campaign. Later in this meeting, you will review the status of the new permanent library branch. As we at the foundation are all in for the Sonoma County Library, we are asking you to be all in for the Roseland Library branch and urge your support for the completion of construction of the library in the Hearn Hub for the people of Roseland and Southwest Santa Rosa. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? All right. Moving forward, we are going to talk about the action item by resolution, the resolution in honor of Library Commissioner Sion McMillan. Function, who would like to read it? Commissioner Heavenbridge, would you read the resolution in honor of?
All right, go. Okay, Sonoma County Library Commissioner Sion McMillan. Whereas Sion McMillan served on the Sonoma County Library Commission from June 2023 through July 2024, representing the city of Cotati. And whereas Commissioner McMillan stepped in to fill the remainder of a term for a retiring commissioner, and whereas Commissioner McMillan has a strong interest in librarianship, and achieving as a career, and brought that curiosity and enthusiasm to his role. And whereas Commissioner McMillan is following his passion and attending graduate school in the fall to further his career. And therefore it be resolved that the Sonoma County Library Commission hereby expresses its appreciation to Commissioner Sion McMillan and honor him on this day for his contributions to the Sonoma County Library and the people of Sonoma County.
Can I consider that a motion?
I so move.
Thank you. Any comments? Right. We're gonna call a vote. Commissioner Cahill,
Yes.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
Commissioner Goldberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Green. Commissioner Green, you're muted.
Yes.
There we go. Commissioner Heavenridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Lagos,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie.
Yes.
Thank you, unanimous. Thank you. Any public comment on the resolution? All right, thank you. And now we're going to have a presentation about outreach and marketing and the impacts of Measure Y.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm joined here with Ray Hawley, who is our Public Information Officer and our Communications Manager. And we're going to share with you the impacts to marketing and outreach as a result of our existing Measure Y funds.
Director Bo, Pure Oil Commissioners, Commissioners, screen. Last time. Okay.
And the last year, speak up. Mr. Hawley.
Okay, here we go. So, as Erica said, we're here to talk about how sales tax funds impact our outreach and marketing and what we do for the community. It's important to tell our library story to the world, and we do that with newspaper and radio ads, posters, brochures, maps, email newsletters, social media, and signs and banner programs. Our marketing approach is to meet people where they are. We use multiple marketing channels that can generate multiple impacts. As you see on the slide, we pay attention to community feedback, the reimagining plan, insights from other library departments, and we combine that with proven marketing tools to get results. We market the library in 13 print publications in Sonoma County, 9 radio stations, plus Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, LinkedIn, Nextdoor, Google, Spotify, billboards, and recently we've added county buses. And this year we launched our first television ad, which you've all seen, which is now running on streaming and broadcast television all over the county. And starting in August, we'll be running before the movie in many local movie theaters. Your library marketers also handle all primary media contacts, our system-wide social media accounts, and our very successful email marketing program. Just going to give you a few numbers. In 2023, our team was responsible for more than 35 hours of radio interviews and advertising, about 17,000 square inches of newspaper and magazine ads, dozens of monthly media coverage items, tens of thousands of posters, stickers, flyers, banners, signs, website and social media images, and more than 400,000 social media impressions. A lot of you get our weekly emails. Our email marketing campaign is very successful. We send out more than 90,000 emails a week. That's about 1.5 emails per quarter. And we have a 40% open rate. If you're familiar with email marketing, that's very high. People love to hear from their library. I'm going to give you 2 examples of how the growth of library sales tax funds has impacted our team. In 2018, our graphics team, which at that time was 2 people, processed about a little over 18 requests per week. And most items, most requests had about 4 elements, usually a poster, flyer, bookmark, and a website image. Now, our team of 3 graphic designers, 2 full-time and 1 part-time, so 2.5 actually. We respond to about 27 requests per week, averaging 7 separate elements per request, such as print collateral, newspaper ads, and digital images. That's almost 10,000 separate graphic images that our small team created in a single year. The second example involves paper. Our team orders, stocks, tracks, and manages most of the copier and printer paper for the library system. In 2023, we used more than 1.5 million sheets of paper. If we stacked all those sheets of paper on top of each other, that stack would be about 500 feet high, almost a tenth of a mile of paper. Our sales tax funding allows us to invest in comprehensive marketing campaigns that get results. The two examples on the screen, the food justice and summer reading programs, each required very intense design and implementation process that involved every member of our team and our colleagues in community engagement and public services. The three images you see on the screen for each of those represent just a fraction of all the images we created and all the marketing messaging and collateral that went with us. And now, to talk more about engaging the community, Director DeBow.
As Ray mentioned, we do have radio ads and interviews, and I can tell you, I listen to KRCB every morning, and I hear those ads every morning, so it's a great thing. And I've also been interviewed on the radio, both KRCB, the county has a podcast that they do. I was interviewed on that podcast, and then The Crush with Steve Jackson, we did several segments with them. So we really have increased our outreach in terms of our media. We've also, as you can tell, if you read the Press Democrat in any given week, there are stories about the library. The most recent one was this morning about the economic impact study. So these efforts really do have a ripple effect. And some of these stories are not pushed by us. They are just generated because of all the wonderful things that we're doing in the community. You also will hear things one of my favorite segments on KRCB is a local segment, and I've heard them interview our bibliobus librarian, Brianna Herod, our branch manager, Mel McCallum in Guerneville. So, we do have a good relationship with our marketers, and, you can see that and hear that. For the library, we have conducted a 9-month-long public education plan. This was a result of working with a consultant who put together a slide deck. We, reached out to many different groups, including Rotary clubs, chambers of commerce, city councils. I visited most of the city councils, not just me, but many members of the team, including our commissioners, our staff, our volunteers. We trained 29 volunteers across the county. We also reached out to, and the number on here, 173, is actually low. It's 182 local community groups about the library. And this is actually continuing. Ray and I were at the NAACP on Monday night to talk about the library, and we have other events scheduled as well. So this is going to be an ongoing effort. We're going to turn over our Speakers Bureau to the Community Engagement Division in September. One of the things that we heard from our staff is that the slide decks are very helpful, and they want to be able to use them moving forward. And so we're going to keep up those decks and provide fresh content and fresh data so that they can continue doing outreach in the community and letting people know about the library. As part of our public education plan, we sent out 2 mailers. One was to the entire county, and then another one was to the residents in the cities of the Sonoma. And we heard back from 1,383 of them about what they want to see in the library in the future. This was our mailer. And what they told us really closely follows what we heard in our community survey that we did in May. So these are the top priorities that our mailer respondents identified. The highest one, coming in at 91%, is our maintaining our book and digital collections, keeping qualified librarians, supporting summer reading, providing safe places for youth, keeping our 7-day hours, 7-day service, and modernizing our local branches. So this very closely aligns with the survey results that we found in May. This is one of our comments that we received on the mailer, and I do want to say we did receive lots of feedback, and some of it we forwarded. We received feedback from folks who want to increase services to the disabled community, folks who want to increase services to seniors, with lots of ideas on how we can do that. And we sent that to our adult services teams, our community engagement. I got lots of great compliments about our branch staff, and I sent all of those to the branch managers to congratulate them for their community service. But this is one of our, the feedback that we received. I'm so impressed with the improvements that the library has made with only a 1/8 of a cent tax. The expanded hours are great, and the added online subscriptions to streaming services and media subscriptions are very appreciated. I can get anything I want from the library, and I use it extensively. So as I said, we will continue our outreach efforts. It's part of our reimagining plan, not only from my level, but in executive services, but in our branches and through our community engagement efforts. And we'll take your questions.
Questions? Comments? Mr. McKenzie?
It's day and night, from a few years ago. I mean, it's still, we're all over the place. Every time I open anything, I see these nice ads, all the color. I love all the color. That's all very upbeat, very inspirational. And no, I just doing a tremendous job, you know, Ray and Erica also. The, I was thinking to myself, I didn't know that the marketing department was in charge of the paper, which is kind of interesting. Do you have a sense of these 1.5 million sheets? I know some kind of a popular offering is that people can use our copier machines for free, like $5 worth every day or something like that. Do you have a sense of that?
Definitely the free printing, and library patrons, enjoy a mixture of, paper and digital, information. They like, we need to meet them where they are. If they want to take away a flyer or bookmark or calendar that's printed on paper, we provide that. We hand that to the branches. A lot of it's the free printing.
A lot of it is the free printing.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, I heard it was just, you know, amazing, like confidence.
From shopping in paper.
That's astonishing. I feel sorry for the trees, but I mean, it's a great service to offer. But anyway, overall, just a tremendous, tremendous job getting the word out about the library. I applaud you. All the staff involved.
Mr. Lund?
I just wanted to add, I think one of the things that I love about seeing the library is the consistency and the voice and the look messaging that you're doing. So everything, you can tell it comes from the library. So you have a centralized voice. There's different branches and all the different events and activities that they're doing. It always looks like the Sonoma County Library. I think that's really important that the community knows it's one library, different branches. So I really want to commend you for that. And I do also just want to encourage the, use of photos, because I know you and I've talked about that before, and I think that those visual stories are so important. So the opportunity to hire a photographer or photography services, I think would be a huge asset also to the library.
Other comments? I think you deserve, even your staff deserve a round of applause. But I do have one question. Sue, we've been talking a lot in various pieces of the library world about getting out the vote. And so would getting out the vote be not in the marketing area, would getting out the vote, because we do a lot of work. I know Sonoma County Library does that. Would that fall in a different section, or do you work together with?
There is an active innovation,
Mhm.
which was approved in last year's budget. That is, we know a little bit about it because I'm the management advisor for it. And it's aimed specifically at teens who will turn 18 before November 5th. So multi-branches, doing outreach to them, and we're talking regularly with the League of Women Voters and all the other sort of the usual suspects voting. And we're always reminding people about voting. You always do in the library news publication. I should mention that monthly publication goes out to more than 700 local folks. The media is actually the smallest part of the list. Almost every elected official in the county gets it. All the school superintendents, principals, city managers, leaders of dozens, hundreds of local nonprofits get that. And starting in September, we'll be fully bilingual.
It's terrific. We have heard sometimes that it takes 7 times before someone notices a marketing piece. Don't get frustrated. We may not, we only may be at 5 or 6 or something like that, but the 7th time you show us something, we're gonna get it. Any public comments? Again, thanks very much. And with that, we are going to move item, the Roseland conversation. Yes, the Roseland Library update, we're going to move that to, yeah, no. Comment for the. No. Do you wanna shut it off or give us a broad outline? Just so that everyone in the room understands.
So it's an updated development project. We have been working with the city of Santa Rosa diligently for the past several months with their project management firm, Pixel. Their most recent budget shows a project deficit of $5.4 million. This is for a 15,000 square foot library. As you all know, that our original plans were for a 20,000 library. That project had a $1.9 million deficit. Considering the all the sources that we have tried to gather the money, we feel comfortable, moving forward. 15,000 square foot library, and we feel like we can continue raising additional funds to make that happen. Ray and I, as well as Dave, Shiva, and Clint have been attending the confidential meetings with the design builders. And the feedback that we received consistent that the deficit is somewhere between 4 and 6 million, with the highest one coming in at 7 million. We have the process outlined for the timeline below. There have been some changes, however. So I was just notified today that the proposals are now due on the 28th of August. So we have an additional 2 weeks. And then the city council is most certainly going to be voting on this at the October 8th meeting, not the 22nd. So that changes our timeline a little bit. We are also negotiating an MOU with the city of Santa Rosa. I have sent over my visions and I'm waiting to hear back from them, but they have indicated that they would like the Library Commission to have approved this MOU before their October 8th meeting. So that gives us a little over 2 meetings to continue discussing this option. And then the award will be going out in October with the contract signed in November. So, we really do need to, to commit to making a decision about what kind of library we are going to build in Roseland. I have provided you with 3 choices. The existing funds that we have only allow for a 10,000 square foot library. We believe that that is not going to be sufficient to meet the needs of the community. And I say that not only because this is a growing community, it's an expanding community, but because we know that our branches that have the size are not adequate. And I included some language from our facilities master plan about Sebastopol and how their 10,000 square foot library does not meet the needs of that community, but also how our ability to shelve books and to increase the size of their collection is impacted by the tight space, and that they have to put their books on high shelves, on low shelves. It's not convenient for the patrons. Because of their space issues. So we really believe that a 15,000 square foot library is what we should be providing at a minimum to the residents of Roseland. I also have David Schnee, who is he is the architect who was working with the city of Santa Rosa here to help answer any questions you might have. The proposal for a 15,000 square foot library, there are 2 options. We have choice number 2, where we don't commit any funding and we continue to raise money. It has significant disadvantages, including increasing costs, lots of unknowns, which make it a risky choice in my opinion. And then the third choice would be that the commission decides to allocate funding towards this project somewhere between 4 and 6 million. And that will give us a fully functional library that opens on time in spring of 2027, that provides the space that the people need, including a 100 a meeting room for that fit 100 people, a large group study room, and 2 small group study rooms, and a maker space. So these are the things that we have identified being necessary for this 21st century library. And as I said, David Cheney is here to help answer questions if you have about the difference between these options and what it means.
I might ask for public comment first. Is there any public comment on this item before we step on forward? So that we factor this in as we have our discussion.
Hi, everyone. My name is Anna Diaz, and I'm also from Roseland. I do want to echo many of the voices in my community. I wear many hats in the role and in my community of Roseland, but today I'm just speaking as a community member. I'm also a lab member for the Santa Rosa Lab, appointed by Mr. David Cahill, representing the lab for Roseland. And I'm also a trustee for the Roseland School District. And I think that not a lot of people know this, but this library is necessary. And it's equally important that we recognize that my school district, our middle school, we have 2 middle schools, 2 high schools. So it's Rams, Roseland Collegiate Prep, and Roseland University Prep. They do not have libraries on their campuses. And just as Mr. DeWitt just had mentioned, our community is growing. So we have apartments coming in and condos coming in off the Bergen Avenue. And this library is also going to be shared with the Moreland community as well. So it's really necessary that we receive the funds for this library and that we try to make it as big as we can, because we deserve it as an underserved community. We've always been looked down upon. We've always been kind of in the shadows. And now we have Councilmember Eddie Alvarez with us tonight, and I'm sure he could also agree. Now, when we go to the city council meeting, every meeting is Roseland this, Roseland that. It was never mentioned. And he's the first person to be representing District 1, which is Roseland, South Park, and hopefully soon to be Moreland neighborhood. So like I said, this is really important to our community as it's growing, as Ms. Erica had mentioned earlier. And thank you for being here tonight.
Yes. Anybody else? I saw a couple of other hands over there.
Hi, everyone. My name is Pamela Vinhausen. Very nice to see you. I'm here as a resident of Santa Rosa. I happen to also be a trained librarian, and I work with libraries across the country to help them develop maker spaces. So that's a piece of expertise that I have to offer. And I'm very happy to see that this library may have a maker space, because it is a really wonderful addition and relevant addition. Help people be entrepreneur, be creative, express their culture in many different ways. But I noticed that not all these options have the makerspace option. The other thing I'd like to say is Roseland deserves and needs this. And now is the time to invest in Roseland and the diversity of cultures that are there. I've been talking with representatives of the Indigenous community lately. I've been brainstorming with them about different ways that art can be represented perhaps in the building. And I don't know what the library has been talking about with the people who have invested heavily in this in Great Rancheria, but let's make this beautiful. Let's make this inspirational. Let's make this big. Let's make this the best library in Sonoma County. And I don't mind waiting a few more months. Really, it's going to be worth the wait to make it the best one possible. Let's fund it. However we need to fund it, bring in partners, partner more with others so that it truly represents more voices. That's what libraries are here for. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, please. Any other questions? All right. Good. My name is Dwayne DeWitt. I'm from Roseland. Thank you for the previous speakers. Thank you for Mr. Alvarez being here. Thank you for Ms. Kudo, all the work she does on this. Everybody, thank you for trying to make some good things happen. You might think that I'm a bit of a persnickety guy because I am parsing the word Roseland and making sure that it's in Roseland and that what you're doing in Bellevue be known as Bellevue. This is because the county decades ago made those designations for those neighborhoods. It's not me. The reason that I am supportive of what all these people are saying, and this could especially for raising some money, is because we definitely do need things to be better where we're at. What was just mentioned is that it's also for all the new people that will be moving in the Portland area. We've been told 35 people by the city. One of the dilemmas that you face when you watch this stuff is planning is aspiration. People are like, oh yeah, we want to do this. So I started going to public meetings 30 years ago for the Southwest area plan. We talk about all these things happening. None of them have happened yet. So what I'm asking is that you look at this with what's called hard-headed fiscal oversight. I don't believe the city is going to have the money. I believe they're going to ask you for more money along the way as their financial deficits grow. There's going to be difficulties. So it's important that when you agree to overextend yourself and get the biggest building, you look at it like the people who are up in Roseland, up along Sebastopol Road, the most disadvantaged community in the census district, and which everybody refers to get the funding from wherever else. Those people need to have the library up there still. The one that's there now is doing well. Nobody I know said, hey, stop that library. It was other people with bigger plans, aspirations, saying we'll go elsewhere. So what we're hoping, myself and many others in Roseland, can't make the time to come to a meeting, is that you won't thwart our efforts to try to get a smaller library along Sebastopol Road, where over 1,000 housing units have been coming forward in just the last 2 years. And you'll let us continue to work for what we're hoping for Roseland folks, while you work for Bellevue folks and all the new people that will be moving into our area. And those that will live in the Roseland Census District, I'll be welcoming them. I'll be glad for the nice librarian that works at Roseland to stay up there with us, not have to go down to Bellevue if possible. Thank you kindly.
Thank you, Mr. DeWitt. More public comment? All right, then we will take it back to the commission discussions. No, one more. Yeah.
Commissioner Well, Chair Well, and Commissioner, my name is David Shea, Principal of Group 4 Architecture Research and Planning. And we've had a decade-long plus relationship with the Sonoma County Library and with the city of Santa Rosa and the Southwest Community Library, the Wilson Library in particular. It's been something that we've been really participating in. My partner, Jill Ayers, is also listening in, and she's been meeting before you often. So just on this topic here, we want to, I'd like to just sort of echo a few points made in Director Thibault's remarks and from some of the speakers. First is about the need in the community for a contemporary library of the biggest that you can make it. The 20,000 square feet is what the your master plan recommends. 15,000 square feet is, as the architects who work with the community to come up with the criteria documents that are presently being used by the design build entities for their proposals, was a step down size. The type of cuts that would be needed to get down to 10,000 or 11,000 square feet would really be major significant and would miss a lot of the community needs. This is a generational opportunity. We had over 1,000 people participate in our process last year that we did with the city, and it just echoes how important this is for the collections, Spanish language collections as a community gathering place for the contemporary library services diverse mix that you were so skilled at running, you provide the spaces that the community wants. And for the complexities here of this is being delivered through the design build process. And so it's something that's a little bit new for many people in the community to understand. And it's not, the time is now where this is happening. And the choices, I think, are quite clear. The second choice of perhaps partially doing it and trying to find a way to phase the project is in response to what some of the builders have suggested. So it's being brought in all transparency. It is one that may not bear fruit in ways that in our experience, it's sort of kicking the can down the road in such a way that costs could be much, much greater and you'd still have a partial project that isn't providing a benefit. So between choices 1 and 3, we would say that the community's wishes are your commitment to 3. I know now it's not the time for immediate action, but heading towards that direction would reflect the community interest and would honor most effective, cost-effective way to deliver the project. If you can figure out how to. And any other question you have.
Thank you, David. I think Paul, you had your hand up first.
Yeah, so looking at the choices, choice number 3 sounds probably the most advantageous. But I have a question. So if out of our fund balance, we allocate $4 to $6 million, does that negate going after other money? Does that negate putting it back into the fund balance?
Absolutely not. So you don't have a copy of the MOU because we're still negotiating that with the city, but it does clearly state that any unused funds that are left over will go back to the library. We can continue to raise funds or continue to look for additional sources of funding through the state, through Congressman Thompson's office, through additional fundraising efforts. But locking in, so, going with the design build allows us to lock in costs. And that is one of the reasons why they chose this method of delivery. It also, the MOU, the project has a $2 million contingency fund so that any cost overruns will be able to be absorbed. And the MOU also stipulates that any changes that go above that will have to be negotiated. So the city and the library, it's not like the city is just going to give us a bill and say, you owe us this much. There has to be a negotiation process, and we have to abide by our purchasing policies, and the city has to abide by its purchasing policies as well. So any amounts over a certain amount of money will have to go to council for approval. It's the same with the library. Anything that is above our my general delegation of authority will have to come back to the library commission. So yes, we can commit the funds and we can continue to raise money. And that is something that we have all been working steadily on and will continue to do until the building opens.
And part 2 of my question was, so we commit the funds, when would we actually have to use the funds?
Well, that's.
No, if you can answer that.
Well, that's something I'm working out with the city, when they want the funding. We have proposed a payment plan. But a lot of it is also going to be contingent upon their contract with the design builder and what that contract says. And I don't have that contract, but we will, within the next few months, be able to get that.
Commissioner McKenzie.
Yeah, I had a question for architect. Just to be clear, because, I'm sorry. Just to be clear, because this question has come up about whether it's actually in Roseland or not. None of the choices and none of the plans that you're looking at developing have anything to do with other than the hub. Is that correct?
Right, so I believe this is strictly about the library at the Urban Community Hub.
Okay. And that hub was originally going to be something like a mini community center for that whole growing area. And because of funding difficulties from the city, it is now going to be safety building, and then this would be a separate library building, so just two buildings would be there. What is considered the hub, is that correct?
Commissioner, let me take that, if you don't mind. You're absolutely correct, Commissioner McKenzie. The original vision for the Hearn community for a fire station, a library, and a community center. That vision is intact and the funding is intact. Fire station and the library will be intact very soon. The community center is planned as another phase. And you may recall, those of you who've been in the commission for a while, a closed session we had about 3 years ago, where we did present to you the options of staying discussed, which at the time was untenable, versus going with the community hub, and the commission gave us direction to go with the police.
Nobody sees me, but I got my hand up.
Go ahead.
Thanks. Two things. When people are at the mic, because us out here in Zoom land are dependent completely on the mic, can you just be sure to talk right into it? Ray and whoever is going to be at the mic. Thanks, because I'm missing some words. Thank you. And can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I've been thinking about this Hearn Library a lot in the last couple of weeks, and I have a couple of questions. One, is there any way that we can push back any of the deadlines and maybe still get a 20,000 square foot library? It seems like that proposal was made for a reason. And is 15,000 square feet really going to be adequate, or is it going to be another library that's too small? Is there anything we can do with these deadlines? Because there are possibilities for further fundraising. That's one question. And related to that is the 5.4 or between $4 and $7 million that we would have to take out of our fund balance. How is it decided, and maybe this is a question for Myrna, I'm not sure, that's affordable to us? And if that's affordable, what about 12 million out of our fund balance so that we could build the 20,000 square foot library as planned? Where's the breaking point of how much we can take out of our fund balance and how much we can't, and what are the repercussions? So I have those questions. Thank you.
Okay, can you hear me now a little better than before? Okay, so there are a few questions there. The ones that I can touch upon are about the timing. That's really Kitchell, who is the city's agent working, consultant working on the design build process, is most qualified, but our understanding of the deadlines that Director Tebow has in this report is the schedule. This project is moving now, and I think there is not any mechanism in place to have a larger expansion of the library as part of this process. And so I believe the question is correctly phrased as how big a library can you build now? The second part of the question is 15,000 big enough for you? And that was our threshold. It's 3 times the size of what the current Roseland branch is. And I see Commissioner Cahill's got the program sheet in front of it. And at that 15,000, we're able to have the diversity of spaces that the community needs here, with shrinking things down a little bit and having flexible spaces so everything is work together. When you get down to 10,000, it's a point where you're really jettisoning some key spaces, and the library, I don't think, serve the community needs as well. And of course, if you could fund, the question I can't answer, and others here can perhaps, is if you're able to fund more, that would of course be wonderful.
In terms of the funding, we have, I would say, what I'm requesting, a $4 to $6 million appropriation, is consistent with our other projects. You know, we have a 3.7 million set aside for the Petaluma modernization project. We have 2.1 set aside for the Healdsburg project. We're working towards the central library project, but that's gonna be over 5 million. So, you know, I like to stay within the range that we have typically funded. It's up to the commission if they would like to fund, you know, put in additional funds. We still don't have our sales tax receipts. We will get those at the end of August, so we will know what our fund balance is at that time. But I think the last report that we saw was roughly 17 million we have available for budgeting. So it's really, you know, what the commission is comfortable with in terms of funding.
I just want to add on. I have a question for Erica. My understanding also is that the funding that we do already have secured is time sensitive. So the million that we received from the state and a couple of the other pots of money, and Eve, I believe that's one of the reasons why we wouldn't be able to delay this project is because the funding that we already do have secured would then be lost. So we'd be looking at a larger gap if we didn't use the funding that we currently have.
And my partnership is.
David, it sounds like you were sending that to me.
Yes.
Thank you. I just wanted to follow up on your remark, David, about the size of the library. The future community center on that site will make the library function even better. If 15,000 was going to be by itself with nothing else around it, I think that would be a little bit harder. But the future community center with all of its spaces will complement what the library is going to be very well. Also, all of the design build teams are looking at usable outdoor areas. So, you know, patios or shaded areas or something. So the library will be able to expand programming out beyond the walls. I think that'll help make it a little bit more comfortable.
Let's see, I have. Is Dave sent us?
Anybody else?
All right, we'll let you in. And it's the commission discussion.
I was looking to speak and I respect the process that's before me, but when we talk about commitment to cities and Roseland, I want to assure each and one of you that we are committed. From the day that we sent the first caller to initiate this process, we continue with the seriousness and looking to see that this project is going to go with the business. And if I may offer a little bit of the experience that I've noticed within the city of Roseland, when we talk about budgetary issues, time costs money. And the longer that we set this process for the future, it means that we're going to pay more for it. And I think that's one of the reasons that we don't have a library already in Roseland. And that's when we're speaking of lovely days of the Sonoma County administration. They waited to become part of the city center of Roseland. We collectively have taken on the issue. To wait costs more money. Thank you.
Thanks very much. David Cahill. All right, okay.
Thank you, Councilmember Alvarez. I just wanted to ask you a question, since we were talking about the original hub concept and the kind of mini civic center, and then what our architect there just added, which was very interesting. It really takes that community center to make this a really cool library with all the meeting rooms and the, you know, the lab, you know, the shared space and so forth. And so
which sadly won't be part of it because the lack of space, but that was also part of the original plan for the hub center.
so there's space for the community center, but there's not the funding. Do you want to venture any kind of a guess when that might happen?
In regards to the swim center or just the community center?
Community center?
Soon after the completion of these projects, I think for us, is to show the community that we are not going to leave projects half done, such as what was the experience with the Office Shopping Center. And I know that's left a very sour taste in the community. So for us, it's really completing the projects that we have before us, and that initiates itself with the fire station, and then following that will be the library.
Thank you. Commissioner Cahill.
Yeah, I have a couple of comments. The last report from Myrna shows we have roughly $20 million in uncommitted fund balance available for budgeting. It seems to me that what's proposed at door number 3, as I would call it, is okay with me. I would like to, you know, spend all the 12 million instead of just 4 to 6. But I think that considering all the other constraints that we've got, this is okay. part of it is that I do have the spreadsheet where we passed out at the last commission meeting, showing the three versions of the project. And most of the difference is expanded X, additional Y, additional Z. That is, we could have more of X, Y, or Z, but we'll certainly have some of everything. You know, and I suppose that it would be nice to have all these extra big rooms for meetings. But I'm happy with what I see here for the 15,000 square foot. Because we can't be all things to all people. We can't be a community center really. So I think this is all right with me. I'm not thrilled. The Finance Committee at its next meeting, in a couple weeks, will be looking into how we keep track of the funding for this from the library's point of view. Because now
Thank you for making a comment. We don't mean to keep you up at the microphone.
so that's,
In fact, I wouldn't weigh in on that, just because I don't want to sway the conversation that's being had in regards to wants to needs amenities that the community has asked for. So respectfully, I didn't plan to comment on that, but I do appreciate how much you're making in regards to making sure that all amenities and needs in the community are being met. So I do appreciate that very much.
so I do have a questions for the,
Commissioner, oh, did you have another question? So sorry. You said you had another question.
we haven't seen anything visually. We don't know what the thing's supposed to look like yet. When will we get even a rough elevation, I think it's called, sketch of what the building's gonna look like?
So, the schedule that report shows, what the next steps in the design build process are. So the illustrations that we had prepared for the design criteria and the program are as we always noted in the public process, subject to change and interpretation by the design build architects. And Daryl has had the good opportunity to be a resource to both the library and the city, as well as public safety architect for the fire station design, and having to just round confidence meetings with the design build architects for it. So Jill, you have clarity that I'm sure the review of the proposals on August 23rd is likely where people will see at least the review committee, and then after it gets, it's like probably the first public meeting will be Dr. Bertlin's second for it shared. So does that sound right, Jill or Eric?
Yeah, although as I said, the dates have been changed a little bit, so the contract will go to city council on October 8th, but the library is part of the selection process, so we will see all the proposals. We will not be able to share any of that because these are confidential meetings, but once the contract is awarded, there will be, they, as part of their proposal, they will provide a design. So the winning DBE will have a design as part of their proposal.
Yes, I don't believe that, at least to my knowledge, that the commission, there's ever been any doubt about the library rose. I don't recall anybody questioning that. I do question the fact that our role as a commission is to develop policy. And we're getting the, cart for the horse type of situation here where we're getting a request for something that's very specific and would be best resolved at a committee level, in my mind, for something we don't have a policy for. And I think if we're going to do this for the Roseland Library, I think we need to be thinking about what the policy is going to be for capital projects within the rest of the system. And not just do a ad hoc type of thing where Roseland comes up today and we're have to hustle around because we've been left out of the process up until now to come up with a way to fund it. I think, we talked about at the last meeting, having a committee structure, and I think that that's where we need to, I feel we need to start as a commission, is to do our duty. Form a committee, get the committee to do the detailed nitty-gritty work with the administration that's worked on this and come up with a policy that's going to not only apply to Roseland, but it's going to apply to any other buildings that we build in the future. You know, we can't just write a policy or just do something around Roseland, around the city of Santa Rosa's needs, and not be feeling that we have to be thinking about the rest of the system, because as my colleague mentioned earlier, we are a library system. We're not just the Santa Rosa Library. We're not just the Roseland Library. We're part of a system. And I think we needed to look at a policy before I feel that I'm ready to act on this.
Any other comments from people who haven't spoken? Karen, you, so, Brooke, do you have anything to say?
I don't have anything to add.
Commissioner Elkind actually does. He is sorry he's not here, and since it's not a voting thing, I think we can include his comments. He's traveling. He'd like his fellow commissioners to know that I'm strongly in favor of choice 3, specifically allocating $4 to $6 million to build a 15,000 square foot library that will be fully functional and open around March 2027. I'm not happy about some of the recent events that have brought us to this juncture, but I believe that this moment is not the time or place to litigate the past. I'm encouraged that the allocation would be only the first step in a transparent process that clearly defines costs and obligations. And I look forward to closely monitoring that process to ensure that the library's partner in this venture is held fully accountable to their obligations. And that's what Andy has to say. He, and then he's got a request for future agenda topic. Commissioner McKenzie got her hand up, and then Commissioner Logos, and then we'll see where we go.
I have so many comments, but I am going to restrict myself to making 2. I wrote this out so I would be as clear as possible. My big concern here is setting a precedent, and I think this is something that Commissioner Engbart just kind of touched on. We are governed by a joint powers agreement. There are 10 members. The county and each city in the county are all members of the JPA, and the document says that the library shall distribute resources equitably. As we know, historically, the JPA members have provided the buildings. They built the buildings, or they turned over an old building that they had, but they've been provided by the jurisdictions themselves. The library doesn't build buildings. The library isn't funded to build buildings. And that has never been the intent of the JPA for us to build buildings, as far as I know. The request before us is for several $1 million to build a building for one JPA member, or to help build a building for one JPA member. As Commissioner Engbart just pointed out, we don't have any policy for this. In materials tonight, the case is clearly made that Sebastopol Library is insufficient for the needs of its community, what's stated right here in these materials. Can we provide the same amount requested by Santa Rosa, $4 to $5 to $7 million? Can we provide that? Can we guarantee in looking at our books that we can provide that kind of money for Sebastopol if they were to request it, or for any of the other members of our jurisdiction? So equity and setting a precedent are huge for me. I want to say again, we need to have total clarity, everything in writing. We need to have the special meeting, and we need to have all the commissioners just be dead set and fully understand what our resources are. We shouldn't be guessing how much is in our unfunded, our unassigned fund balance. We don't know that. We don't have it in front of us. And we're trying to have this discussion without having much other than a lot of, questions and so forth in the air. So I want to say we need to call a special meeting. We need to discuss the financial resources of our library system so that every commissioner fully understands our financial situation, especially the unassigned fund balance. And number 1, how it was accumulated. Where do we get it? 2, the prospect for additional accumulation of a big chunk of money like this. 3, the commitments we've already made for some of the funds. The needs of the other facilities throughout the system and what other requests are likely. 4, what important uses for some of these funds, including our OPEB unfunded liability and a possible trust for CalPERS, as we've discussed at our finance committee. We've also planned for these funds to be used. We've had a discussion about using these funds and our unassigned fund balance to just keep the library going if the tax measure does pass. I will say as a little sidebar, Jill, a little pressure here to be talking about something before the Santa Rosa City Council before the election. We don't even know if our tax measure is going to pass. So in summary, we all are on board for Roseland Library. I personally, my husband and I made for us a significant contribution to the foundation in support of the Roseland Library. We understand the long road that it's taken to get to this point. However, just because we want Roseland to have a bigger and better library, our job as commissioners of the library system doesn't mean that we should set a precedent for helping one JPA member build a building, unless our intent is to be able to fund others equitably. And two, doesn't mean that we should fail to understand the limits of our own library resources. And number three, importantly, that we should act now. We shouldn't fail to know that this is before securing our library funding with the removal of the tax measure. And I think we're all hopeful it's gonna pass, but we won't know until after the vote in November. So I just want to have a special meeting instead of this. It's all great to have all this discussion in public. We can have a public meeting, a special meeting about this library, but there's just too many unknowns, too much information that we need to have and really understand our financial situation before we're talking about committing, $4, $6, $7 million to one project to help build a building. Oh. Did you address something else? No, I just finished my sentence. My apologies.
So you brought up actually the sentence I wanted to reference as well, that the JPA is focused on equity in the system, but I don't believe we're using that word correctly. So when we think about equity, it's different from equality, which is actually, I believe, the definition that you're using. So equality says that every branch gets the same thing. But that's not what the JPA says. The JPA says equity, and equity says that we recognize that some parts of our community, some people, some areas have less resources than others. So they require more investment. And we do that because that's equitable. And so actually what the JPA is calling for us to do is to invest in Roseland, because that is the equitable move. And so I think we just need to be really careful that we're not confusing equity and equality, because we know that we're moving past equality and we have to be providing equitable resources for the community of Roseland. So that's the first point I want to make, because I think that's a really important distinction that we have to be careful about, that we don't think everybody gets the same. Everybody doesn't get the same because everybody doesn't start off the same. So the second point I want to make is that I appreciate that we are uncertain about what's going to happen with W. And I recognize that. I think we're all mindful that if W doesn't pass, then the library system looks very different. But $4 to $6 million in the fund balance isn't going to change what happens to the library if W doesn't pass. It's going to allow the library to continue for 2 or 3 more months in the way and the services that we provide. But after that, we're still going to be cutting back hours. We're still going to be laying people off. So I don't want to conflate the two issues of the tax measure passing and the opportunity to make the investment in Roseland. Because if W doesn't pass, the whole system will suffer. And if we don't build in Roseland, it's Roseland that will suffer. So I don't think we want to conflate those two issues together.
Mr. Kennyhill and then Commissioner Green.
Yeah. 2 things. The language of the JPA expressly grants the commission and the authority to construct and operate buildings. There's no doubt about it. It's listed in the express powers section. I agree with Commissioner Lagos about equity versus equality. The train is going to leave the station. It would be nice to have all these policies in place. The finance committee is going to meet and talk about monitoring this stuff. I'm very happy to see Andy's comments about we've got to keep control of this as it proceeds. It's not just a blank check. So I'm perfectly content. Remember, we're not voting. In concept, though, I'm in favor of door number 3, which is 4 to 6 million. It'll be months before all these details are worked out. We may indeed need more than one special meeting about this, because this is just, we're just hashing over ideas.
Commissioner Green.
Now, I think that option number 3 is really the minimum. It's the floor for what Roseanne deserves.
Could you
But
speak up just a little bit?
I'm very sorry. I think option number 3 is the minimum. I feel like it's the floor of what Roseland deserves. But I would welcome a special meeting as Commissioner McKenzie requested, because I feel I need more information about how this impacts our finances.
Commissioner Ingvar.
Yes, one point of information, the JPA. The documents on the JPA when it's drafted has a document, actually a couple of documents that define what they meant by equity.
Could you speak into the microphone?
The JPA itself has documents that are in support of the drafting of the JPA that define equity. They have an extensive discussion about that word and what it meant to them when they're drafting it. So if you like a reference to that, I could get it for you. The other thing is, I think what I'd like to do is make a motion to move this to a committee of the whole. Have it be a closed session, have it be a public session. Get everything out here that we need, have a full presentation, spend the time that we need to do it, not as part of a regular commission meeting, and come to some understanding about what we're going to do next. So that would be my motion, that we move this matter, table it, and move it to a committee of the whole.
This is just a discussion. There's no.
I'm making a motion on the item. We're spending a lot of time on this.
I think such a motion would be out of order. It hasn't been noticed properly. It hasn't appeared in anybody's agenda.
Commissioner Goldberg.
I'm gonna have to leave at 8 o'clock. I just want to say, so I'll click off at that time. Because I got stuff to do before surgery tonight. So I totally agree, and I hope that we do have a special meeting to further discuss it, because I don't feel completely comfortable with understanding our finances and the impact of this. And I would like to have more discussion also, so I third that. And I was going to bring up one small point, but maybe it's for that further discussion, which is I'm picturing the field at Hearn and Dutton that I've been to and looked around at, and I'm imagining a fire station next to a library in this open field temporarily, I guess, until the rest of the hub is actually built. And I have a really concrete question. Is the library going to have a parking lot, and who's going to pay for it? Because I know it sounds small, but if there's no parking lot, you got people trying to cross Hearn. It just becomes sort of unfriendly. And so I want to know about the parking lot, but it doesn't have to be now if we're going to have another discussion.
Yes, it will have a parking lot. All the designs and the design criteria requires a parking lot.
All right, I think everybody's had a chance to be a part of the conversation. I will say, just as a reminder to everyone, that the library was committed to this project long before Santa Rosa incorporated Roseland. This library was committed to helping the underserved population of Roseland a long time ago. So I think that there are, it's the people in that neighborhood rather than Santa Rosa that we have always been focused on. So I think that's an important thing to remember. And also, I think that we are not raising the money to build the library. We're helping Santa Rosa raise the money to build this library. We are helping, our foundation is being tremendously generous. And so is the rest of the population of Santa Rosa. And I think that it is not our job, as we all know, to build libraries, but this is a different commitment. This is something different than most of our This is in effect, not outside the JPA, but it is something that we identified as a serious need as we are serving the entire population of Santa Rosa. And so I think that it's important that we remember that when we're talking about finances and money makes, money makes us all nervous, especially when we're not quite sure what the changes are going to be in the next few months. But sometimes we have to make decisions when we're not just sure of exactly what's going to happen in the future. And I think that's one of those times. And with that, we're going to close this conversation.
I've heard at least three of us ask for a special meeting, and I've heard in the bylaws, 3 people.
We can do that at the end of the meeting.
Chair Doyle, I do think there was a motion to move this item to a special meeting. I don't know if there was a second, but I would resolve that first before
Could you speak closer to your microphone?
Sorry, so there was a motion to move this, to continue this item to a special meeting. I don't know if there was a second, but I would suggest that you resolve that motion first before you take it up.
I believe there was probably a second and a third.
And my suggestion would be that
So-
you vote on that item.
Can we do that from a discussion?
I think there was a motion made.
Let's vote.
Point of order, I want this to be clarified. The motion, there is no motion agendized, okay? This is discussion only. My view is that in the Brown Act and under our bylaws, you've got to have a motion agendized, and properly noticed for a meeting, 72 hours. Or otherwise there could be no motion. So if we're looking at a motion, it has to happen next month. The other process, which we've used over and over again, is to set up at the end of the meeting, there's item business for another, what is to be on the next meeting agenda. That time we discuss whether or not we call a special meeting. I think the answer will probably be yes, we should.
Jeff, can we, what's your sense?
With all due respect, I don't believe the agenda has to contain the specific motion that gets made. The agenda needs to describe the subject that is going to be discussed. In this particular case, what I understood the motion to be is a motion to continue the discussion to a subsequent meeting. I think that is an appropriate motion.
Is that an acceptable motion for you, Commissioner McKenzie?
Well, the friendly amendment, my understand, your motion was to refer it to a committee. My friendly amendment would be if we refer to a special committee of the entire commission. There are just 9 of us now, and I think we should all be there for it. But my concern, I don't know, maybe there's more than 3 votes, but my concern since Commissioner Goldberg has to get off, if we wait till the end, then there may not be 3 votes for it, so, and there's.
I mean, it's a rule of procedure, the motion's rule of procedure.
So just to be clear, there is no such thing as a meeting of the whole. It's either a regular meeting or a special meeting. That you have 2 choices. And so
He was making a motion to go to a committee, and my amendment would be go to a special meeting of the whole.
So that's 2 different motions.
No.
Well, then you.
Accepting.
Are you going to withdraw your motion?
Yeah, I'll go with third phrase.
So you have a motion. They're different. They're different in committee versus.
I've made a friendly amendment to this, you accepted. So the motion now on the floor, our attorney says we can make a motion, is that we have a special meeting. I request that we have a special meeting to discuss this with full documentation from both our financial department and from Santa Rosa, details, everything in writing, and sometime pretty soon.
I second.
I say within the next 2 weeks.
All right, there's a second.
Second.
There is a second, yes. Commissioner Green seconded. Commissioner Cahill?
Yes.
Commissioner Engler?
Yes.
Commissioner Goldberg?
Yes.
Commissioner Green?
Yes.
Commissioner Evans?
Yes.
Commissioner Lugo?
Yeah.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes.
All right. So on to library reports. And just for those of you who are in the public, the announcement is going to come up that the library is closing in a while. So if you want to go to the restroom, this is time. This is one of the good times to do it.
Okay, so I actually have some really fabulous news. And that is that the State Library Building Forward Together grant funding for Rohnert Park, Cotati, Durdenville, and History and Genealogy Library is moving forward.
Oh, fabulous.
From the State Library today that the award fund will be coming. So we are gonna probably, History and Genealogy will likely move before the others. The city of Rohnert Park has its own process, and I think they are waiting until fiscal year 25 to do this project. But it's great news for us. We've already committed to fund, so no action needs to be taken from the commission. We've already got a resolution to appropriate the fund. We have all of our leases in place with all of these buildings, so we just have to wait for the money and then we can, so that is really, I don't believe that the Santa Rosa Northwest branch will be funded. I haven't heard from the city, but all indications from the state library is that those funds will not be awarded because the city didn't fulfill all of the requirements of the grant. That doesn't mean that it won't eventually be funded, but at least not this fiscal year. So that's our news from the Capitol, great news. And then other than that, you know, I think we are getting ready for school. School is starting next week. I think we finished our summer reading program. So we will be providing some information in the next commission meeting about our summer reading. Other than that, ALA, you know, many of us attended ALA in San Diego. Craig and I presented, Deborah and I presented, many staff attended. It's something that I don't usually attend, but it was a really wonderful conference. And I will be presenting, and some of you may have seen Deborah and my presentation at the United for Libraries Virtual Conference. I know Commissioner Green was there, so.
Any questions? Commissioner McKenzie?
Couple of quick comments, a quick question. One is that at ALA, Commissioner Burrell and you, I guess, did a presentation, or you attended a presentation on top 10 things every library board member should know. I'd like to know what those were, and maybe we can incorporate them into our training, commissioner training.
Yeah, so that was, that presentation was given by a library consultant who I believe works in Oregon or Washington. We can certainly look into contracting with her to do some training. She is a well-known and well-respected consultant.
That'd be great. Once we get our other two commissioners, I hope we have training really quickly, and that'd be a great place to start. I wanted to comment that mind blown that the Career Online High School person finished the course in 47 days. That was really impressive. And I did want to ask the change in the holds for our Ian audio books up to 10-1. I know that our elections director has mentioned the possible need to do that. I'm just wondering about implications of that, and you know, we kind of talked about, you know, why that's happening, and that's pretty significant increase. I wondered if anybody wanted to comment on that, or.
So I can say, so Deborah and I met today with Senator McGuire's staff to talk about CSLA funding, which was cut 50% in the recent state budget. We are still trying to get those funds restored, and that funding does actually, you know, we use some of that for that. But I'm going to turn it over to Jamie to answer your other question.
Hi, Commissioners. Jamie Anderson, Collection Services Division Manager. I'm not exactly sure what the question was, but just to kind of summarize the situation that we've talked about before, particularly in the budget workshop. There's two things going on. One is the high price point for the e-content titles. They're significantly higher than
Close to the microphone, close to the microphone.
Is this better?
Thank you.
I feel like I'm touching it.
That's okay.
So there are two issues, the high price point for ebooks and e-audiobooks, they're 2 to 3 times the cost of print material. And then secondly, the trend, the usage that's exponentially growing. So the last 3 years, we've seen 30% growth each of those years. So our flat budget can't keep up with it, and that's the reason for the longer wait times and the 10-to-1 ratio instead of our typical 4-to-1 ratio.
I guess I was also kind of thinking about complaints and, you know, all that we're talking about, all the services we're offering and all this kind of stuff, and we're turning people, you know, encouraging people to do all e-resources and stuff. And then if it's gonna kind of come to a screeching halt with people, the way they're using it, but maybe it doesn't matter. I mean, maybe we're not feeling that or hearing the complaints or anyway, I don't know, be interested to get some feedback when you know more, or do you have any comments about that?
Since we have transitioned to the 10-to-1 ratio, I've not been made aware of specific patron complaints.
Okay. Can you let us know?
It's only been a few months. People are used to having some kind of wait anyway, and this is just a longer wait for popular titles.
But just update us as it starts to become a problem. Don't worry.
It is a problem.
It
It's
is a
already-
problem. That's what I wondered, okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Jamie.
Thanks very much. Dara, do you want to talk to us about mission values?
Hello, Commissioners, Director DeVoe. In July of 2023, a group of our library staff convened to discuss an update of the library's mission and vision statements. The group agreed that the existing mission statement had strong qualities, but needed revision to better express the library's purpose. So in October 2023, my first commission meeting with you lovely folks, the commission received an update on the process, and Commissioner Lagos is our working group. And under my leadership, the group drafted and refined recommendations to Sonoma County new mission, vision, and values. As part of this process, we looked closely at key library documents, including Measure-wide expenditure plan, the Joint Powers Agreement, the Reimagining Plan, the Facilities Master Plan, the Kern Community Hub Needs Assessment, the Racial Equity Lens, the Racial Equity Vision Statement, and the Statement of Inclusivity. In particular, we focused on the Reimagining Plan, which incorporated insights gained from the feedback of library stakeholders and community members. We also reviewed examples of mission, vision, and values from other library systems, and community partners and high-performing organizations. We also gathered input that was from the library's racial equity team and the library's equity and inclusion consultant, Be the Change, and via survey of library employees and the commissioners. And we now have our new mission, vision, and values. Our new mission statement states, Sonoma County Library creates community through discovery, culture, and connection. Sonoma County Library vision statement states that Sonoma County Library welcomes to grow and thrive in a community where equal access to knowledge creates understanding and limitless potential with innovative library programming, robust collections and responsive services through equitable access to information, technology, and connectivity, and opportunities to contribute, interact, and participate. Our values are equity, curiosity, creativity, and empathy and trustworthy. So you also have our previous mission, vision, and value if you want to review those. But I wanted to present those to you today for review and see if there's any questions.
Any public comments, so? New mission value? Commissioner McKenzie?
Thank you for your work on this and President Lagos' work on it and staff work on it. I like the new mission statement and the new vision statement. I did like the language that we had passed about bringing information to these people together. I think that's a beautiful phrase. Kind of missed that. But what I didn't really get was the library values. And I see that this is not a draft motion or anything. So it is going to come back to us for a vote, or, I mean, we should adopt this or not. I mean,
Yes,
we're just.
As a future action.
It's
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I just wanted to comment on library values because I don't really understand it. Certainly equity I get, but curiosity is like, whose curiosity is like, our value is our staff's curiosity or patrons' curiosity. Also, I felt that way about the creativity and empathy, like whose empathy is that and whose trustworthiness is that? I just wasn't curious. You know, if this is like the culture of the organization, it didn't quite make any sense to me.
Well, they're meant to communicate our key principles, and our group, when we were meeting, felt that the adding the values kind of better spoke to the library aspiration. And we had a very long list. I can't remember how many terms that were, and there was also an option to add an additional term. But we have library staff and commissioners weigh in on the survey on the values that they felt that's represent the library.
Second, so it's actually our organizational values, vision, embodied by all of our programs, services, as well as our staff. So this is really, you know, a reflection of who we are as an organization and who we want our employee and the qualities that we want our staff to embody.
That's a curiosity fit.
Well, I mean, I think that we want our staff to always, you know, be curious about learning new things, about providing new things to our communities, about inspiring curiosity in our patrons and in our communities.
Okay.
Well, Commissioner.
Good work getting us put together.
Could you put your microphone on, please? Thank you.
It's good work getting all this put together, and thank you for doing that. Going to what Barbara said, mission statements I've seen usually will have a submission, but then if it has a term like equity, it gives you the definition of what is meant by that, along with the mission statement, so that somebody reading it can see equity as a term, but also see what you mean by it. And I felt that was missing in this. The other question that I would have, maybe you could look into, is that, as I mentioned to my colleague Commissioner Lagos a minute ago, the JPA, when they drafted the JPA, they had in mind definitions of the term equitable and equity that I think if we're going to use that term here, we need to talk about what it was that they meant when they put that into the JPA, as opposed to what we might think now. And then if we want to change that, then I think when we go to the JPA to get a change to the JPA, we might want to then argue to the JPA members or present to the JPA members to do a clarification of that term in their JPA. But right now, they did do some discussion on that definition, and you know that might be good for you to review. The other thing is just there's nothing in here that talks about community engagement, and it doesn't look like that this was shared with our labs or with the foundation, the friends, to get input from them about what do you think about this proposal? And I think that would be something that would be worth having done and being able to see at the time you make the presentation for an approval, to know that, you know, that it's gotten a review from the community as well.
So this is the library's mission and vision statement, so we felt that it needed to come from staff and the commission, who both had a role in creating it.
Right.
I feel like the first vision statement itself actually does speak to community engagement, because we're creating community through discovery, culture, and connection. This is more about the role of the library.
Right.
And we also did lean heavily on that reimagining plan, because it's less than 5 years old, so we considered it a current document. And there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people interviewed as part of that community engagement process. So to some extent, a little bit of getting the mission accomplished, and that would be difficult, I think, if we were to endlessly survey everyone we could come across, and they also represent how the library feels.
I feel if this is going to the community, which it will be, and if it's guiding, which it will be in part, I feel the community needs to have a say in what they think of this. Whether or not you accept what they say or integrate it into what you submit is a totally separate thing from that. But I think to get some community feedback and let them know, you know, here's what our mission statement is, you know, we're proud of it. What do you think? We're going to send it to the commission for an approval. Because my understanding is the last time this was done, the commission actually, and Barbara might remember that it was the commission that drafted the mission statement.
Commissioner Lovett.
Just to address the question you brought up, Fred, we did talk about, should there be a survey? Should there be something like that? But because the reimagining plan had done all that work and had solicited that community engagement and feedback, we felt like those were the data points that were coming in from the community that were informing then mission, vision, and values. So that source document acted as the community opportunity to weigh in on the plan for the library, and that's where a lot of these key statements were coming from.
Yeah.
So rather than going back out again, we just said, well, we've already gotten all this great information, we should use what we have rather than duplicating the work.
Yeah, I understand. You know, I mean, that's perfectly logical. But I think the community, it's good 5 years later for them to hear, because libraries have changed in that time. Community engagement, as all of you know, is a big part of new 21st century library. And it's a big part of what funders are funding these days, if they're wanting to see meaningful community engagement. So I think that, you know, to have that, I think would be of help and of value to this, and it might make it more acceptable to the community in the future to know that, you know, we were listened to. We at least had a chance to talk about it.
Any other comments?
Can I go back to your other, just to get their feedback? So you mentioned giving a definition of discovery. Are you suggesting we actually define our values that are listed?
I think if you're setting out values, the purpose of values is to give somebody some guidance, and anybody, I mean, if we asked for people here to say, what's your definition of equity? I think we'd get a different definition for each person in the room. So we need to know what, if we're adopting a value statement, what are we adopting? What is meant by equity? What are you saying the library is supporting? If it's equity or curiosity, as Barbara raised, what do you mean by curiosity? What are we being told that you're going to do with curiosity, rather than just leaving it this way, because anybody could make up a definition for that.
Any other comments? Commissioner Goldberg, Commissioner Green? No, okay. My one comment, just as I read it, and kudos to the team who looked at so much information. But my one thought was that I know that the library staff is committed to the community, but I didn't feel the commitment to reach out into the community. I see the build community, but I don't see the, how you reach out into the community, the commitment to look outward, and then, and be a part of the community, but it's there, it's just you have to look for it.
I feel like we define that in the vision statement by talking about ways to reach out through library programs, through elections, through responsive services, through equitable access to information, technology, connectivity, and opportunities to contribute, interact, and participate.
Right, so it's here, but it's not out there. And it is, I mean, I get that we have programs out there, we have, but it's just not. You have to look for it, and I'm sure you're going to have another conversation, but it.
So I guess my question is to the commission, what direction would you like to give us about this? If any?
Well, I think that
Could you turn your microphone on, please, Commissioner Engbarth? Thank you.
I think definitions is one thing that we're saying, because even using the Harwood model of looking outward, that, you know, he's got a pretty straightforward definition of that, and that might be what you're talking about. Not, I think, but having the terms defined would help. So that would be one thing. To me, I'd be looking for community input to know that the community had an opportunity to share what they thought about it, and not with any you going out there telling them, well, we're going to take everything you say and put it in the statement, but just to say, what do you think? We're proud of this, we're happy about it, we'd like to hear from you, what you think.
I suggest that the committee meet again and talk about these things. If you need to edit, if you need to make some definitions, we don't want a mission statement that's 3 pages long. You know, mission statements that are a sentence long is exactly what we want, but just for our information, perhaps some definitions, remind us of what the definitions are or something like that. But we're not asking for a complete rewrite. We're also not trying to tinker. It may sound like we're trying to tinker, but that's not what we're trying to do. It's just that this is the first time we've seen it. And so if you all would just take another shot at it, just take a look at it. And if you want to bring it back just like this, then that's fine. And we'll have a discussion about that then.
We can't hear a word. We can't hear a word.
So, can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes.
So then what I'm hearing from you, Chair Doyle, is that we need to address the outreach component. I don't feel that statement. Is that correct?
Address what you've heard from the entire commission. And maybe you do want to edit it a little bit. Maybe you just want to provide some additional information to us about what you're thinking. If you think that you need to get some additional community input, I tend to agree with Commissioner Lagos. We did that a lot over the last few years, and so I'm not sure that that has changed much. But just take our comments on board and then come back to us with what you got. Okay. And with that, we're going to take a 10-minute break. Next up, we have budget and finance. Sorry. Next up, we have budget and finance report. Thanks, everybody, for your attention. Thanks for your, let's give us a nice summary here.
For the month of July.
And speak into the microphone, please. Okay, Commissioner Green can hear you.
Good evening. Tonight I'm presenting a summary of what's been happening over the last few weeks over the summer. The finance committee did not meet during the month of July, but I did send them this report and presented meeting. Their next meeting is Monday, 19th, at the regular time, 3 p.m. And we are currently working on the fiscal year 23-24 audit. Our books and financial system closed towards the end of July, and we did kick off audit for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024. We will be working on that audit for the next several months. We do expect that the audit would go to the finance committee in November and to the commission in December. We are also working on the PED actuarial evaluation. This takes place every 2 years. And the period that we're looking evaluation for June 30th, 2023. And it will be presented to the finance committee. Other pending items were actual revenues. The total combined revenues as of June 30th, 2024 is approximately $45 million, which is rounded to 100% of our budgeted revenue. And that's thanks to the interest in full cash grant revenues that were greater than budgeted. And however, our property tax, which is our general fund, we collected about $27 million, which is a little over our approved adjusted budget as well. However, with the sales tax, we're still estimating to be short of our budgeted receipts. And so we did receive the tax for May at $1.3 million, which is over $71,000 that we had estimated for that month. And we're waiting for the month of June to come in with our 2-month lag. We won't get it until the end of August. So just as a recap, the impact on any revenue shortfall in fiscal year 23-24 will have an impact on fiscal year 24-25. And with the last receipt coming in August for sales tax, I plan to have a summary and analysis of that impact on this current fiscal year September finance.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Any questions from the commission?
I just want to interject that I know we were having discussions around the fund balance, and as I mentioned, when you adopted the budget and when we talk about the fund balance, is that at the end of the fiscal year, we do true up the fund balance statement of special activity based on all the actual revenues and expenditure and our committed fund balances that are through that. So we do all of that through the method of finalizing our financial statement. And we should have a draft of that, of the fund balance
Questions? Thanks very much.
Thank you.
All right, we're moving on to item 7, commission liaison reports. Commissioner reports are first. I have nothing to add to my chair report. Anybody else have something to add to their own commissioner reports? Hearing none. Down to committee and liaison reports, the finance committee report. Just really read here. Yeah. Foundation liaison report, there was frequent, we said goodbye to Commissioner Hauser at the foundation meeting. He was really a terrific help to them and a terrific liaison to that group. As we watched it grow over the years. Commissioner Goldberg's not here. I don't think she had anything to add to her Historic Records Commission meeting. Item 8, Library Advisory Board, Foundation and Friends of the Library. Audience. Okay. Then we're moving down to the consent calendar. Approve the consent calendar. Thank you, Commissioner Cahill. Commissioner Engelhardt seconds it. Do we have any?
I want to pull the, just can't find, 9.3. I just have a couple of questions about
Pull 9.3. Anybody else? See, Commissioner, I'm gonna call a vote. Any public comment? On the consent agenda? All right, Commissioner Cahill?
Yes.
Commissioner Engelhardt? Or, no, Commissioner Green?
Yes.
Commissioner Evanridge?
Yes.
Commissioner
Yes.
Levin?
Yes.
Mackenzie?
yes.
All right, thank you. All right. 9.3, the award the Petaluma Regional Library Modernization Project construction contract to Arns Builders. You have a question?
The question. The total cost in terms of the library, if I read the fiscal impact. Yeah, there on the bottom, page 51, we are totally putting in the total amount of money the library has put in 3.7 million.
That's correct.
And then could you tell us what the cost of the entire project is?
So the entire project is 3.7.
Well, I mean, the city's putting in.
Oh. Well, we don't know that, they're domain here. We don't know how much their construction part of this project is gonna cost them.
I can speak to that. The last budget that I saw for the city was 3.6, but that may change.
So just a reminder for everyone to speak into their microphone because thank you.
Okay, I'm still confused. So the library's portion is 3.7 and the city of Petaluma is gonna cost them 3.6 million? Is that what you said?
The last budget that they sent us when we were doing the grant, that was what it indicated, but that may change because the state says they're delaying.
So in order to completely renovate this 25,000 square foot library, it's $7.5 million. Okay, I just wanted to get a sense of that. And then I believe at one point in time, you showed me a breakdown of who paid for what. And I'm wondering at some point in time if we could see that. Share that.
Well, I have the budget that they submitted to the state library that shows what the grant funds being used for and what our matching funds are. That's, I can provide that.
I thought there was a document that showed that the library's 3.7 is paying for all these things and for these X amount of money is paying for these. Thought we had that.
No, what you're referring to is exactly what the application where it said what we paid for in that part of the project. The partnership, part of the city of Petaluma, which is the 88 exterior portion of the project outside, which is an independent project.
Well, what about the sprinkler system?
That also was independent of ours. We were able to push this project forward by bifurcating the two jobs because the city of Petaluma could not afford to do their portion yet.
So what happened with the sprinklers?
Inside will have to go no matter what, so that part. But just the exterior, all the exterior stuff that is in their project, is not open for a year, funded.
So the city is funding the interior sprinklers.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm still hoping that when we see our capital improvement plan, that we'll get a sense of like.
And finance committee.
Right, thank you.
Any other questions?
Commissioner Green had the hand raised.
Commissioner Green.
I just wanted to please ask those who are at the podium speaking into that speaker, I'm missing most of your words, so please make every effort to speak right into the microphone.
Will do.
It's your building.
Thanks, I think that's it. Then we may have a motion to approve that.
So moved.
This up first.
Read the motion, should I read it?
I mean, tired, are you tired of talking about all?
We're going to just, I know you were, we're going to award the Petaluma Regional Library Modernization Project. Rent Builders Inc. All right, Commissioner Cahill.
Yes.
Sorry, Commissioner Hill.
Yes.
Commissioner Green.
Yes.
Commissioner Evans.
Yes.
Mr. Lago.
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie.
Yes.
I'll make it unanimous. Thank you, and thank you. Petaluma who has hung in here all night long. Thanks, Diane. Wonderful. All right, action item by motions. We're all the way down there. That's great. 10-1, the Department of Justice live scan fingerprinting background check access resolution.
Good evening. Commissioner. Can you hear me?
Yes, sorry. Well, sort of. Just get closer to the microphone. And if you would speak slowly.
Thank you.
I know that's difficult for all of us, but
Definitely me.
there we go. No, it's just like, it's a difficult sound system tonight. And so Commissioner Green would like to hear what you have to say.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. So, in 2017, when I first came to the library, we were not conducting external background checks with a third-party vendor. And so, but one of the first things that I put in place due to the number of hires that we were going to be having with Measure Y funds. And so that was exciting, and that was put in approval by the commission. Slowly fast forward to now. We recognize that that is an expensive process. And we also realize that we need to do a criminal background check through a third-party vendor. It's a static check, which means that you do it one time and it gives you a snapshot in time. So for about a year and a half, we have been trying to go through the application process to the Department of Justice to do live scan fingerprinting. So that if there is a hit or somebody does have a, for example, if you hire them and then there's a DUI or some other misdemeanor, the library would be notified for that. It's been a long process. And just in order to even be considered for moving forward, we have to have the library commission sign a resolution that says that they would be interested in moving forward with it. So we don't have cost comparisons or anything. We can just tell you what it is costing us right now to do this process. We're very excited about it.
Erica, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, so what you're basically voting on is the authorization for us to move forward with live scan. And once we have this authorization, then we can start engaging with live scan with costs and that kind of thing. So at this point in time, we're not asking you to approve a contract. We will not get there until we get this approval to move forward. And we need the resolution for the Department of Justice to allow us to move forward.
Any questions? Commissioner Barth.
I think it's great to be getting live scans. It's,
Could you turn on your microphone, please? Thank you.
I'm sorry. I think it's great that we're getting it. Having access to that is really a big step forward. My only question is the live scan doesn't cover everything. Is that correct?
That's correct. It does not cover everything. It covers, there would be the criminal background check, and then we still have another vendor that we do checks for the certain classifications, motor vehicle record search.
Right.
Employment verifications, education verification, depending on the position. And then, so that's a separate process, and we have a vendor that we're working with that regard.
Okay,
And
great.
then it would just be the life scan would be different. So we've done some investigations that we can do if the library pays, it, does the employee pay, so it's done differently at different agencies, but until we get the approval of the resolution, we can't really get final approval from DOJ
Yeah.
further.
Yeah, no, it's great. I'm glad to see what you.
Commissioner Kennedy.
Cindy, just a quick question. In the resolution, draft resolution, page 71, it says at the bottom that the Snow County Library should not consider a person who's been convicted of a violent or serious felony or misdemeanor. Seems a little harsh. I mean, how do we have definitions for what kind of misdemeanors are gonna, if it's from hiring somebody?
Well, yes, and that's a very important point, that we would need to evaluate what comes back from DOJ, seeing if one was such received to make a determination. There's just no, it would not be an automatic,
Disqualification.
Thank you, disqualification. So, we just have to evaluate that information and then, apply it to the standards that are listed in the DOJ, information that we received back from them.
Because it does say we won't even consider a person who's been convicted of a violent or serious felony or misdemeanor. It isn't clear whether that's a violent or serious misdemeanor or just any misdemeanor, that we not even consider it. It's kind of a little bit opposed to what you said, like you get the information back, we'll kind of look at it and see how serious it was, but this kind of states our policy is we're not even gonna consider them.
So, Jeff?
I had one comment. I believe this is a resolution from Department of Justice. This is their form, and so I would strongly encourage us not to try to modify it.
We don't want change it.
You would strongly encourage us to what? Could you say that
Not-
closer to your microphone?
Yeah, not try to modify it because this is their form that they want us to use.
That's correct.
Thank you. Commissioner Green, your hand is up.
Yeah, I'm strongly in favor of sending in the application packet. I have had experience over 5 years with LiveScan locally, vetting a team of volunteers, and they were efficient, professional, fast, and it's not going to cost us anything. So I'm all for this.
Super, thanks so much. Any other comments? Since you already made a comment, do we have any other comments? Okay, Commissioner Inkbach, one more time.
Maybe Jeff can talk about it, is with us taking live scan, with us taking live scan, we're taking on the obligation of the Credit Reporting Act as well, of having to provide and meet those reports.
I honestly don't know the answer to that question.
Well, I mean, if somebody contests the results of the live scan, they get to get notified of that fact under the act, and they have options that they could choose of what they might want to do in terms of correcting it. Is that?
Sure, so let me just clarify now that we will not be doing the live scan in-house when we take it, we'll go through an outside vendor that will conduct the live scan check. Third-party vendor, so we're not doing fingerprinting in-house.
Good.
Yeah. they'll have the, same appeal right they get through that system.
Do I have a motion?
I move, so moved.
I'll second. All right, then any other discussion? No hands up. Call the roll. Commissioner Cahill.
Yes.
Commissioner Ring.
Yes.
Commissioner Green.
Yes.
Commissioner Heatheridge.
Yes.
Lago.
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie.
Yes.
That's a yes. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
And 10.2, reclassification of an FTE librarian 1/2 to a 1 FTE librarian 3 at Roanoke Park Dottie Regional Library.
With this report, it's not just me that compiled it, it was in the help of Marina and also Suzanne as well. So in November 2022, the Northern County Library completed a great union administration staff assessment. Its goal was to provide a comprehensive system-wide staff and to address the staffing structure, work processes and workload in all library branches. So what is before you is a reclassification from a now vacant librarian 1-2 position, it was held by a 2, to a librarian 3 for adult services for Roanoke Park County Library. This is our third tier 1 library, the other two being Petaluma and Central. It is the third highest circulation, the third highest visits. And it currently does not have a librarian 3, whereas Petaluma has 1 and Central has 2.
Any questions? Sure, McKenzie.
Did you not recently tell me that sometimes this is number 1?
Right now, it is number 1 in the system for the last couple months. Visits and finish.
Right. So very busy library. I know they've appreciated the Petaluma staff up here to help out.
Could we all talk into our microphones just so that Commissioner Green can?
That was one.
I don't think so.
I'm hearing it, so anyway, apologies.
I'm just watching her, so.
Okay, sorry, Brooke.
Yes, with the Petaluma closure, it had bumped us up to number 1, with that state in Roanoke Park, Kentucky. And in both areas, by actually, we have a lot of Petaluma patrons coming up and we have the help of the Petaluma staff here as well. But prior to that, Roanoke Park was surpassing its previous numbers from 4 previous years and only going up in terms of statistics through our 15 branches.
So this is gonna be at least a year and be possibly the busiest branch. So
Yeah.
anyway, thank you for bringing this forward.
Also in consideration of the doctor library from some state university, so the senior housing and assisted living.
Any other questions? Comments? All right. Seeing none?
Public comment, if you can ask for public comment, please.
I'm sorry. Any public comment?
Hi, commissioners. Can you hear me?
No.
No.
Head for the mic.
Right there.
Pull the microphone down. There you go.
We need a mask on the microphone so that everyone can use it.
There you go.
Anyway, hello, everyone. My name is Brianna Harrod, and I am a Sonoma County Library employee and a union member. And tonight I'm here on behalf of SEIU 2021. The item that you have on the agenda right now, I don't need to tell you what it is. Our main concerns revolve around which staff members will now be expected to perform the desk time, the programming, and other job functions of the more day-to-day public-facing position of a librarian 1-2 that is being subsumed into this library 3 position. If you'll look at the wording in the background information, it does say create more. It does not say turn one position into another. So our concern is that, is this going to mean that more extra to adequately cover the adult services desk? And I just hope that you will all consider these questions when you're making this decision. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone else? Public comment? Director DeBoe, you got?
Oh, I just wanted to say, rather than engaging with public Current speaker, I'm wondering if we've got to have the answers to, whoa. If we know the answers to those particular questions about whether the library 3 is gonna take over the tasks of the prior 1 or 2.
The librarian 3 will still do desk work. They will still do programs for adults. They will also be helping with scheduling and coordinating with, you know, Sound State University and senior housing and some of our assisted living. As many of you know, I was the branch manager of Roanoke Park Cotati prior to this position. So I can say I know the workload that was happening with the librarian 2 prior to vacating. And I wouldn't propose it if I did not think that it would be a positive thing for the community and the library, and that the librarian 3 could take that work and also do librarian 3 duties. It's also a great opportunity for staff to be able to promote into that position. And I know that we have a lot of qualified people that would be great in this role.
The question would be, do we anticipate more additional extra help in order to, you know, take over the duties?
No, for the MOU, we do not use extra help. We used extra help for vacancies, for help with vacancies for desks covered, and then also when people on vacation or out sick. We use it mainly for coverage at the branches.
I just wanted to add that we did run this by the union and in accordance with the MOU. So we gave them advance notice and opportunity to review all of this before presenting it tonight. So I'm glad that they brought their concerns here because they didn't express any to us. Also that, you know, there is the classification can always work down. So, you know, the L3, which the librarian 3 will be able to do the desk work of the librarian 2 and 1. So it just has that additional oversight component that we need for such a large branch, large in size and in circulation. So thank you for your direction.
Right, and I would also add, so, you know, this library has 3 service desks. And, you know, all of our other tier 1 libraries, including Petaluma and Central Library, have multiple service desks. So, you know, it is, you know, as Suzanne said, they can work down. In my own experience as a branch manager, you know, I personally work the desk at least 30% of my time. I have, you know, done, programs, I've done collection development as a branch manager. I've done all that work as a branch manager. So it is not an unrealistic expectation to ask a librarian 3 to do those things.
Just as final thoughts, it is an expectation for staff of all classifications besides shelter and aid to work on the desk. So because you become a branch manager or librarian 3, it doesn't take you away from it. You still are working on the desk, serving the public. And I'm not bringing this as just me, myself. I work closely with Jen Ryder, who is the current branch manager. And she's also, when I've talked to her in our conversations, is excited about this position.
Stupid. Do I have a motion then? I'd like to move that we reclassify the librarian. I move that we reclassify the FTE librarian 1 and 2 to 1 FTE library 3 at Roanoke Park Cotati Regional Library, using contingency funds, and authorize the library director and chief financial officer to execute the budget adjustment in the resolution and necessary accounting entries. Thank you, Glenn.
Go a second.
Yes, second.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Cahill.
Yes.
Commissioner
Yes.
Green.
Yes.
Commissioner Evans.
Yes.
Mr. Lagos.
Yes.
Mr. McKenzie. Yes. Thank you, unanimous. Thank you. Wonderful. And thank you for your comment. Thank you, appreciate it. All right, then, we've had the Roseland Library discussion, going to 11. Now it's 11:1. The internal procedure for consideration of first and second reading. Sorry, I think that's me. I was. And just as it's as a reminder, this is actually not a motion, this is a discussion. We have talked several times about whether we should do first and second motions on everything that the commission, every action item that the commission takes mostly. And Commissioner Engelbarth and Commissioner McKenzie were interested in having this in front of the group. What you see before you is Commissioner Engelbarth's suggestion if we move forward with that first and second reading. But we're not there yet, but we wanted to make sure that you saw that because this is what he submitted to us all. So the question is, do we think that we need to, as a commission, do we think we need to have a discussion for one meeting and then have another conversation about it before we make a motion? Director Thibault has some thoughts about that. Jeff, is Jeff on? So do you want to talk about your concerns?
Sure. I mean, I think from my perspective, you know, the system that we have now works. When there is an item that I think that the commission does not feel that they have enough information to make a vote on, they have said, you know, let's bring this back when we have additional information. So I feel like the system that we have works, and, you know, we're not a city council. We don't meet twice a month. We meet once a month. And so to push off items, to do a 2-month process to vote on it will require a lot more time, and we won't be able to act on some of these items in a timely manner. So I feel like it's not an effective, an efficient way of conducting the vote.
Jeff, do you have anything to add?
Well, this is, of course, within the discretion of the commission, but I will say in my 30 years as a city attorney, I know of no city that has a standing rule that everything comes back twice. Ordinances come back twice because by statute they have to. But certainly things can be brought forward as a workshop and then brought back. Sometimes items are continued, as happened earlier this evening, but there is no standing policy that I'm aware of in any city that requires everything to be read twice.
All right, commission comments. Because you have submitted I think it would be fair to have you start off, but I think that the commission can certainly see your points here. If you want a brief introduction, that's great.
Just to say that the motion that I've submitted in the scope of what our bylaws say, this has been on the agenda for a year and a half, almost 2 years now. It was seconded, it was listed. There was even a draft of the motion on the table. In the interim time, as I say in the motion that I've attached, that we've received the comments from the labs, from the all lab meeting about their concern about not receiving information and being heard. And I felt that rather than focusing our discussion around readings, that we look at the topic, as I say in the motion, of communications between not only the commission and the commissioners, but the commission and the labs and the community, to talk about how that communication chain could be developed so it's more effective, so that we get feedback, we encourage feedback, we hear from the community about how they're feeling about things, and getting their comments up a chain, albeit up a chain, and that the readings would only be a part of that if and when an occasion, much as the Measure W motion came up that requires readings, and we have readings for those, but we make it a part of a process as the involvement and communications plan. We're gathering input and making sure that we're working with our community members and our patrons and our volunteers and the people who work with our library to make it happen. So that was my intent with this.
So any other feelings about first and second motions? As commissioners, do we think that we need first and second motions? Because usually when we think that we need additional information from the staff, we say we need additional information and they bring it back to us the next meeting. And all the meetings that we have in public and all of the lab members and all of the members of the public can watch our commission meetings and can also come to, or they can call into the commission meeting and give us their feelings. Commissioner Kaya.
Yeah, I agree with Erica. I don't think this is needed.
Green. Commissioner Green.
I think it's important to encourage public participation, and I think our communication with our labs can continue to improve. But I know that we've been encouraged to remind our labs to check the agenda and when it's available. And I think that I don't think it's time to make a change like this, particularly in light of what Jeff told us about this not being a standard procedure. So I'm all for improving our communication with the community and with the labs, but I don't think this is the way, and I don't want another committee, another level.
Public comment as well. At some point, if you can ask for public comment.
Actually, let's get some additional commissioner conversation. Commissioner McKenzie.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I believe that Commissioner Ingworth was kind of frustrated because this topic was on the agenda long ago and hadn't actually come up. So I think there's some frustration with our process with agenda and items. And we probably still have some outstanding things we've asked to come before us that haven't come. So I think that's one level of frustration. I think there's been another level of frustration with some of the labs anyway, for sure, that they haven't been included in some of the processes and, you know, had opportunity for input. And I think this whole issue of labs, obviously, we've talked about this for years.
You're talking about first and second readings right now.
But it has to do with taking a pause so we can get information from the labs. Like that's what you were addressing, I believe. So anyway, once we address the lab issue, I don't know how we're going to get our hands around it, but I think that's a big part of it. I agree with what Jeff said. I've watched, you know, billions of city council meetings. They don't bring everything back. It is the ordinances. And I think one thing would be to remind us that, you know, as commissioners, that we can ask for, you know, let's put this off another month. We don't have all the information. Let's bring it back. I don't know that we always think of that, but I think it's a very wise thing to do, you know, moving forward. So I seconded this. I think it's always good when people, you know, have to talk about, let's bring it back to the commission and talk about it. But I'm of a mind that, you know, possibly there's two different things that we're really talking about rather than just bringing everything back. And I don't think their intention was ever to have everything be a second reading anyway. It was just super highly important things and we have to figure out what those are. So.
Keep them off the taste.
Any other comments? Put your microphone on, please.
Yes, I do. I don't know what we're afraid of in terms of getting more community involvement in what our deliberations are and what our committees do or not do, what our labs do, what the community feels about issues. I think that the modern 21st century library is really prides itself in that direction on getting community engagement and bringing people into the library and using the Harwood model, looking outward and our processes as they work. And this is a case in point. This has taken almost a year and a half to get up to any discussion for the committee, even though a draft was made back when, shortly after it was submitted. I think that we've got a communications problem, and I'd like to see it addressed in the solution that I put out in the draft motion that I have here would be a way that I think we could do it by just having a committee that would work on this and try to see what we could do to improve. And if we don't do anything with this today, then I'll make a motion to have the motion that I submitted put on the future agenda calendar, or hope that it gets up for a vote before another year and a half goes by.
Any other comments? I have to say that I disagree that that there is not encouragement of public participation. We have labs, and many libraries do not have a lab, do not have commissions and labs. And that is a way that our communities can communicate with the library, can communicate with staff in a way that certainly most libraries in California don't have that.
Right.
And I think that one of the ways that we can encourage the people to become involved is in fact to watch the finance committee meeting. They're right there on Zoom, watch the commission meetings, they're right there on Zoom, talk to their commissioners. And our commissioners can go out to community meetings, not just their labs, but to community meetings that are throughout their jurisdictions, and in fact, throughout Sonoma County, just as Commissioner McKenzie does. She's all over the county and gets to know everybody and talks about the library. So I think that more formal processes are not necessarily what we need. And your initial proposal was first and second readings of library motions. So I think that we did not talk about community participation the first time that came up. It was about first and second readings of actions for the library. And that's what we were talking about, because that is what the motion that you proposed, and that is the motion that Barbara seconded. So we've had this discussion. We can certainly move forward and do other things, but let's not conflate subjects that we've talked about in the past. Any other comments? Public comments. Other public comments?
Good evening, Commissioner.
And do speak into the microphone because we've got.
Yeah, thank you. Maria Woodford, former commissioner, and also current lab member. I don't think that the whole point is to have every single motion have second readings. I think that, of course, is a ridiculous thing to do. However, there are some important issues that do call for second readings. And what comes to mind is, as a former commissioner, there were many times that staff came to us and said, this contract must be signed tonight. And first time the commission would have seen it, that this could stop with 2 readings for contracts. If the staff have to prepare ahead of time, usually staff knows when a contract is coming due. And I've been being in the car for a while, and then the commission can have a chance to really give it some thought, instead of just say, as I heard some commissioners say, oh, well, we'll just leave it up to the expert. Well, that's not the job of the commissioners, to just leave it to the experts. You guys are supposed to be the oversight of the library. In addition, having attended the all lab meeting, and heard lab say, we would like to be more involved in advice to the commission on matters of importance to our labs. But if they only get the agenda the Friday before the meeting, and they only meet themselves once a month or every other month, it's very hard to not violate the Brown Act and have people come comment from the lab.
So I would ask that you do consider this, I'm glad it's gonna be on the agenda again. So that people can come and comment on it, and not just say, oh, it's too much trouble, cities don't do it. The county does it, so I'm not sure why this commission can't consider it for things.
Thanks, we are considering it. Good. Any other notes? All right. Yeah. Commissioner Light.
So I just want to add that I think it's our job as the commission to inform our labs when matters are coming forward. And the lab members can and should be contacting us individually. I don't believe that the lab needs to wait for a meeting. The lab is supposed to be representing the community it serves. And so they don't need to come to consensus or pass a motion to provide input to their commissioner about a particular topic. Two of the Santa Rosa lab members came today to express their support for the Roseland Library. They saw it on the agenda. The agenda's on the website. They're aware that it was coming forward, and so they came to speak. So I do believe that the lab doesn't need a meeting in order to come to, and I don't know if I would say consensus. The individual lab members should be in individual conversations with their commissioners. And so I wouldn't let that be the reason we need to have first and second motions. So I just want to clarify that.
And I want to add that I would say, 80% of the things that we bring to you do not have to be approved at a particular meeting. There are some things that absolutely must. That includes our insurance policy. And we cannot get a quote before, a month before it goes into effect. So that is not possible. It is not possible for us to get an insurance quote 2 months before the insurance goes into effect. We tried this fiscal year. We could not get any responses. Insurance companies will only provide those quotes 30 days out. That is just the reality. So there are some things that will always have to be done, right up to the deadline. Our other items, including some of our building facility items, these big contracts, for example, the Petaluma, we cannot move forward with construction on that project until that contract is approved. And so we could wait another month, but then we add another month to our schedule. I think the commission could come up with, a criteria for what items they might want to see. We could talk about the finance committee and using the finance committee in this way, but the commission really needs to, come up with what they think is the best approach for this. And I will say that I know the division managers do talk to their lab members and they do solicit their feedback. But, frankly, what they report to me is that the labs, they want to provide feedback on certain topics, but not always on what we would like their feedback on. So it's not a simple, it's a very complicated issue. I also agree that having greater communication between the commission and the library administration and the labs is something that we all, hope to work towards. I just don't think that this is the means to do so.
Thank you. Anything else? All right then, that and it was a discussion item, so we'll see what happens in the future. It's also, I think, important to note that this library has changed radically in the last even 4 years, and we have a very strong finance staff. And I think that we did not have that before, and for many years, the commission was having to do a lot of things that senior staff that wasn't there was having to do. And so I think that recognizing that a lot of things that perhaps the commission did were in fact staff responsibilities. That doesn't mean that the commission isn't responsible for the financial health of this organization. It is, of course, that's exactly, we have a major responsibility in that way, but I think that it's also important that we recognize what is the staff responsibility and what the commission responsibility. Okay, then we're moving down to agenda 12, item 12, which is agenda items for future commission meeting.
Submit the document that I turned in for today's meeting. It's a future agenda item, and if I need to adjust it, I will. The motion itself and if backup documents are attached.
Of course. I'll say. You read it, right? Okay. Well, anything else? Oh, yes, actually, Commissioner Elkin has a suggestion. He'd love to get an update on the implementation of the NeoGov HR Enterprise Platform. In particular, I'm very interested in hearing about the employee appraisal process and if all departments are up to date. If another commissioner would also like to hear about that, I hope you can find a spot for this topic on an upcoming agenda. Is there a second? You have your hand up, Robert? Yes.
And I would like to agendize a review of our past requests for things to be put on the agenda. And so we don't run into the same kind of issue. I think there are things that for different reasons it's not intentionally dropped, but I mean, they do get dropped along the way. And if we could have that review, I know that one of the things I had asked for is a discussion about the labs. I can't remember exactly what I asked for, but just a few months back when we had like people down here, I asked for something about labs. So anyway, I would review, by our wonderful staff person, Lisa, to go through the requests that we've made that in the last year and a half, and haven't made it back onto the agenda.
We have such a list, and most of the things that we've discussed here have been taken care of by staff, but we will.
You're gonna have 201, it's.
But we will make sure that,
We should have that.
look at feedback. Yeah. Anything else for future agendas? All right, then I will, call this meeting adjourned. Any objections? Fabulous.
You